All right, as of now, ladies and gentlemen, let us now continue with our next FundConnect session, which will focus on strategic R&D financing for high-impact innovation and mission-oriented economy. Our next forum, Funding the Future, will explore how we can mobilize resources and build confidence across the innovation value chain, connecting capital, collaboration, and commercial impact. Moderating this session is Mr. Mohammad Mohammad Zairi, the Chief Ecosystem Officer from Malaysian Research Accelerator for Technology and Innovation from MRANTI. And joining him, our Young Berusaha Technologies Haji Muhammad Hazani Haji Hassan, the Group Chief Executive Officer of Malaysian Technology Development Corporation from MTDC. Mr. Norman Matthieu Vanhaecke, Group Chief Executive Officer from Cradle Fund Sdn. And last but not least, Mr. Abdul Aziz Abu Bakar, the Chief Executive Officer from Ilham Capital Ventures Sdn. Ladies and gentlemen, again, please welcome our moderator and panelists to the stage for FundConnect Forum 2, Funding the Future. Take it away.
Assalamu alaikum and a very good afternoon. I believe that this has already been a very long day. Everybody okay? Can I see a thumbs up? Wow, that's amazing. I was expecting the people in the room to be sleepy, so we won't have much questions. But again, on behalf of MRANTI, we welcome you to the National Innovation and Commercialization Expo. Give a big round of applause to yourself, for being here, and also in terms of also be able to join the next round of panel discussion that we will be having. I know that you have heard a lot of discussion happening on stage. I personally have attended the session by Dr. Shamila on grassroots innovation, and Dr. Raihana, and then Dr. Raihana again, but I think it's just that these are all beneficial sharing. So I want to move on to our next discussion. And also I have esteemed panels here, all of them in their rights. So we have, before I do the introduction, again, allow me to remind everyone here that, our session is a part of the FundConnect, and we will be discussing about strategic financing. We'll be discussing about high-impact innovation, as well as a mission-oriented economy as well, So for over the next 55 minutes or so, we want to be able to make sure that this panel be able to deliver what each and every one of you expect. So what I would like to do first, before we start, and to make sure that our session is relevant, can I see a show of hand from public sector, government and agencies? Can you show your hands, raise your hands? Okay, nice crowd. Private sector, technology SMEs and startups, aspiring startups, raise your hand, don't be shy. Okay, do I have academician as well as lecturer or students? None? Okay, we have, very good, thank you, welcome. Okay, and in terms of overall, any other categories, for example, innovators, researchers that did not fall under the first one, or even, for example, civil society, any association reps? None? Okay. The reason why we ask is because we are shifting gears. We spoke about earlier on grassroots innovation, and then we spoke about RMK30 aspiration, and now we're shifting gears, we're talking about financing, financing and funding. And when we talk about the national innovation commercialization, we talk about the whole journey of ideas, from ideas to market. We understand in terms of the people in this room, you will be looking for talent, you will be looking for market, you'll be looking for, what else are you looking for? Innovation, and you're looking for funding, correct? Okay, I don't see a nod of head, so I'm not sure. Everybody okay with financing, funding? Yes means you're okay. Because I just heard from Panellists, I think we're doing somewhat a good job. There seem to be a less gap, but I want to make sure that, be critical, not with me today, please. I'm just your moderator, your host. You can be critical with Haji Hazani is the CEO of MTDC, yeah? And allow me to read his distinguished and also esteemed experience. CEO MTDC, Khazanah-owned agency advancing Malaysia technology. He's involved in commercialization for over 30 years plus, in venture capital and innovation. He has led major developmental VC fund and driven national tech initiative as well. And this is very true because as from MRANTI, we work very closely with MTDC for our National Technology Innovation Sandbox, as well as MySTI initiative, yeah? So previously, he was a principal at KMP, Kumpulan Modal Perdana. He managed VC operation across Malaysia, US, as well as China, and was seconded to Silicon Valley as well, yeah? He also served as chairman of MVCA, which is the Malaysian Venture Capital Association, member of MP Majlis Pembangunan Koperasi Kebangsaan, correct? And Technology Association Malaysia, government committees in MOSTI as well as in MITI. So he is, by background, a mechanical engineering degree from California State, a diploma in technology management, and a coach certification from University of Malaya. Yeah, that's a big round of applause for Haji Hazani. And we move on to our next panel. I have to apologize in case I pronounce any of your name wrong, yeah, Norman? Norman Matthieu Vanhaecke. Bolela. Okay, we were supposed to conduct this session in Belgium, but I don't think you understand Belgium, so that's why we conduct it in English. So Norman is the Group CEO of Cradle Fund, Malaysia focal agency for startups, early stage startups under MOSTI, established back in 2003. They have funded over 1,200 tech startups and now lead key national initiatives such as the Malaysia Startup Ecosystem Roadmap, or SUPER, yeah? Startup Single Window, Startup ASEAN Platform, aim at creating 5,000 startups by 2025 and positioning Malaysia among the top global startup ecosystem by 2030. This is not easy. So he joined Cradle in 2020, head of finance and corporate services first, right? And he was with KPMG, held strategic financial management position, and across oil and gas company, energy company, so that could also be a topic. And he holds a degree of accounting, software engineering, and combined finance and technology interests or his background to help Malaysian startup. And I move on to our last panelist, is Encik Abdul Aziz Abu Bakar, which is the CEO of Ilham Capital. Yeah. So under the leadership, they manage one of the largest semiconductor-focused funds. Any semiconductor-focused players here? None. Good for you. So he was managing partner and co-founder of Quantify, where I met him first, leading landmark M&A transaction and capital fundraising and startup. Yeah. So prior to founding Quantify, he had illustrious global career among diverse industries, ladies and gentlemen, and you would be happy to know that he was in GM Motors, he was in BlackRock, CIMB Investment Bank, as well as Malaysia Airlines. So he has an MBA from Harvard, Master of Science from Software Engineering from Carnegie Mellon, Bachelor of Science from Mechanical Engineering from Kettering University. So I think you have in front of you here today a panel that can answer all, well, most, if not all of your questions regarding funding. So which is why we're going to start off our session. We'll take it gentle. So what I've told the panel is that be ready for surprise. I will take a question and then we'll see in terms of how it goes. Yeah, and then after that we'll roll with it. Yeah, and we'll make it interesting. So because we certainly do not want to repeat what has been discussed earlier. So now I'll begin with Haji Hazani. I want you to give us perhaps some of us, some of the people in the crowd, have not yet engaged MTDC. Yeah, so let's share with them in terms of MTDC a bit. Yeah, and then also in terms of your current focus. I know that one of the things they are looking at is commercialization, also looking at deep tech. Yeah, and then in terms of looking in terms landscape of financing. Can we start off with you then?
Thank you, Safuan. Assalamualaikum and very good afternoon to all. First of all, thank you for inviting me and MTDC to be part of the panel. So, a bit about MTDC. We are a company setting up by the government in 1992. So we are about 33 years old. And starting with try to help commercialize R&D from local universities. But along the way, we evolve ourselves, not just to do commercialization. We have doing the venture capital. We do a lot of advisory as well, because in order for us, because money is one, the technology is one, but how to bring those things working together. So you have to provide the advisory, you have to looking at the financing, marketing, business advisory, and so on. On top of that, we also do a lot of accelerator. We have 5 centers working with host universities to accelerate some of companies that are working with universities and some spin-off from universities to go to the market. On top of that, recently we have a training center initiative, not center, is initiative, that we feel that there is a gap that why would the student from the universities going to the market, going to the marketplace, you know. So there's gap or expectation from what the student and what the industry wants. So we want to bridge the gap. So we have a training program, you know, how to accelerate these people to go faster into working with our companies going to the market. So, and that is basically about MTDC. So we have multiple fund, which is from the grant all the way to venture capital. And of course, we will work with all our partners, Cradle, MRANTI, and all the agencies under MOSTI. So maybe that's briefly about us, MTDC.
Okay, so thank you, Ajin. Again, keep it very light, very easy. I just want to move on to the next panelist, Chit Norman. So if you look at 1,002 plus startups, right? I think in the ecosystem, we map close to about 5,000 startups altogether. I think that's what under Cradle's radar. So when you look at the startups, some of them raise their hands here. There are aspiring startups. There are also startups in the room. I just want to tease in terms of how Cradle funding looks at startups into what makes a good startups, what are the criterias, along that line. Yeah. So you look at them and say, okay, this is a good innovation or ideas you want to invest in. Then you look at the founders. So what is it, and what does Cradle look at?
Okay. Thanks, Safuan. So Cradle, traditionally we provide grants. Okay, for 20 years we've been providing grants. So the types of grants that we provide today are 2. One is prototyping, and another one is early commercialization. So there are criteria to that, of course. All those is listed on the webpage. Okay, so those are basic criteria. But the thing that we look at typically, even for both grants specifically, is that the technology, of course, I mean, you have to be novel. I mean, we see a lot of Me Too technologies. Not to say that we would want to support your idea, but the thing is that every year we get 600 applications, but we can only approve 100. So, and not only that, the money that we use to fund all these grants come from each and every one of us. It's taxpayers' money. It's our money, your money, his money, everyone's money, right? So the thing is that, so we are very cognizant about this, and we are very serious about when we really, how we look at the startups. So the technology that has to come has to be novel, and it will be great if it's really, really disruptive, something that no one has ever seen before, And also we look at the team, the composition of the team, the founder, the capability, the competencies that you have, the experience that you have. Because we want to see the idea to be developed, not just to go to the market at day 1 revenue, but we want to see you go all the way to IPO, public listing. when we invest in you in your first day, we want to see you succeed at the end. So we want to be very sure. So those who do get the grants are the ones that we really want to see them succeed. So that's one of the key elements that we look to when we evaluate the startups. But of course, there are other things as well. I mean, you want to look into your strategy, your growth strategy, your idea, your competitors, comparison, all those things. Those are quite normal. I think a lot of startups actually have that template already. So that what then sets you apart from the rest. That's what we look at. Yep.
Okay, thanks, Norman. I'm going to use the same question, but I'm going to pass to Chair Aziz. Coming from Ilham Capital, you've been with BlackRock. So do you have a different view in terms of, because Norman represents Cradle, Cradle is part of Mohd, yeah, we are part of the agency, we have the public sector approach. So what about Ilham Capital from a private sector approach?
Assalamualaikum, Saudara Safuan, Tuan Haji, Saudara Norman, everyone. Thanks for having me today. Actually, just to address that question, I do echo a lot all the things that Saudara Norman said. Much like how Cradle is looking at things, is how exactly Ilham Capital will look at it. Cuma maybe there could be some distinction because so Saudara Norman talks about a very I suppose interesting matter, which is we are receiving a lot of Me Too proposals. So in the case of Ilham, we are primarily focused on semiconductor. And semiconductor is such a big industry for our country. Just to put some facts, on an aggregate value of the trade, for 2024, semiconductor is worth more than ringgit 1 trillion. And out of that, more than 60% is for export. So it's such a big sector for the country. So Ilham, being focused in semiconductor, is looking for companies, primarily at the core of it is the technology offering. Because we want to advance the sector to advance Malaysia from being where it is. Today we are assembly, we are testing. So we are very much at the back end. So we are looking for companies that will catapult Malaysia to the front end. What does that mean? That means IC design. So beyond just assembly and testing, we want to create IPs around design. We want to create technologies. At the same time, we also want to go into the advanced manufacturing. Today, we do manufacturing. So as a country, Malaysia has benefited. That has generated a lot of growth for the country. But going forward, the competition is very fierce. We need to value add. So we need to secure advanced manufacturing capabilities. And what does that mean in semiconductor? One thing in particular is packaging. So this is in the realm of advanced packaging. So that is, in a way, those are the kind of criteria that Ilham will be looking at when we look at our investment of companies. We want to look at companies that can have this kind of technology offerings so we can invest in them. And out of it is a win-win. Of course, the idea of Ilham, much to what the other panel was relating, ultimately investors want to earn return, but at the same time, we want a double bottom line for the country, which is to advance the technology and to change the ecosystem to be more innovative and competitive. Just as a lasting point, sorry, I lost my train of thought, but I was trying to allude that this analogy that was played out by the previous panel about the football. I think that makes a lot of sense. And I think Norman spoke about it. It's one thing to look at the company and to look at technology, but you can't do without the team and the captain. So ultimately, we will look at the people. Do we trust them? Do we trust them as they navigate the investment path to deal with the problems and solve it? Mistakes will be made. That's a given. No company is perfect, but do they have the tenacity to solve the problems one after the other in their pursuit of innovation, success, and so forth and so forth.
Okay, thank you, Aziz. I just want to pick, again, as I mentioned, the question that we share, or I share, is more in terms of guidelines. So at any point in time, I told them that, we'll be more agile and we'll shift. So I just want to take in terms of what you have just mentioned. You're looking in terms of semiconductor, right? But I think it's okay. You can put the mic down because the question is go to Haji Hazani. Because in terms of semiconductor, we'll come back to you later in terms of other focus area. But just in terms of MTDC itself, over the past at least 1 year or so, we'll be looking in terms of move into area of deep tech, right? Can you highlight a bit more in terms of the shift towards deep tech? And also later on, I'll add a question in terms of how do you fund it?
We don't shift from deep tech. I think we are all along doing deep tech investment. I think deep tech is mainly definition is from scientific and engineering innovation. So that is require a lot of R&D, long gestation period, and very high talent. So that kind of. So at the end of the day, all deep tech have to have an IP. So why I say that we have been doing deep tech, we have been shy away on investing in so-called business innovation. So we don't look at all this e-commerce, all this, our play at MTDC. Even though sometimes we did, but most of the time we try to go look at differentiation of the technology. And differentiation of technology is not something you pluck from the sky, something that you have to do deep research. So that's why we have to understand the landscape of the R&D, how you develop your R&D from concept, the basic idea, how you prove the ideas, Then from that, you bring to the lab. You prove at the lab, then you go into pilot, you go into validation, and only you go to commercialization. All these stages need people, need funding, and need the roadmap, the fundamental of where you're going. So the mismatch, we look at deep tech right now is because people always thought my technology is the best technology out there, We never be driven by market, we're driven by technology. So we keep on pushing technology rather than looking at the market that will put the pull technology. So at MTDC, we look at that in deep tech, that something is beneficial to the humankind or even to the community, that it can change the way we do things, or something new into our processes. So this is a deep tech. So like Norman said, they have looking at more than 1,000 startups. I think at MTDC also, we have looking more than, I'd say a few, more than 1,000 companies also that, because under our CRDF programs during commercialization of R&D. So we have invested maybe, giving funding, not invested, in about more than 100. So there's the things when we look at technology, because we have to look technology more holistically. So that's why previously in MTDC we have technology acquisition fund. Because the things about technology, we can develop our own technology. My chairman always said you have to make some. But at the same time, you have to marry with something that we have to acquire. They say we buy some. Sometimes you need to buy certain technology. Sometimes you have to share this technology. So this element that we can say then in the deep tech. Because deep tech really you need not just deep, but you're sitting quite wide in the application of the technology. So this is important at the end of the day because we really want to push something out of Malaysia, because we want to be a technology creator, not a follower. So when we talk about semiconductor right now, Aziz say, we are always at the back end. But for me at MTDC, look at semiconductor, maybe I don't look at the chip itself. I look at different things on, we have a lot of companies under automation that provide the equipment manufacturer for semiconductor. And because of that, a different angle, we have a companies that going global, being supplier to Tesla, Panasonic. So we have all those things, but we have to start somewhere with very deep understanding of the technology. And my analogy, maybe everybody, taking about analogy. I say analogy. So for me, it's analogy in doing technology is like having a car. So the technology is the car. Can be the, I'm not saying that Malaysian car is not good, please. I say take it Proton and Lamborghini, there's a car. But you need the fuel, which is the funding. Of course, you need a good driver. You can put me into Lamborghini, I will drive like a Kancil. So this is the people. So, and of course, you need a infrastructure. The ecosystem, you can have the Lamborghini, try to drive on KL road, traffic jam, you go nowhere, you just burn the engine or burn the car. Because so that is the analogy you have to do when we look at technology. We have to understand everything in holistic way. So, but the most important thing is how you want to work with the driver, the car, the fuel, and the infrastructure, the ecosystem. That's why MTDC, Cradle, or the venture capital out there, we cannot solve this problem. We have to work together. The government, the private sector, because that's why you get triple helix, we have to work with everybody. So I thought, Safuan said, no, Hazani, please stop. So I stopped now. Pass to somebody else.
I didn't actually say stop, but I think he read the body language. Actually, for your information, we finished the panel discussion in the holding room. So basically, we can go and just list out all the points here, but I think for, that was the fun in it, right? So you can see, I told Haji Hazani, you see, all I need to do is to set him free. Yeah, because when he's not holding any tax or whatnot, he speaks from the heart, he speaks from experience, he speaks from the mind. And that's where you want to catch him, right? But I just felt that, it'd be wrong of me to, I know that we have a lot of things that we want to share, but at the end of the day, we have to go back to the question that's being posed to the panel today. We're talking about high impact innovation. I've been to panels. I shall not name what panel. And in those panels, for example, we talk about Malaysia's need for high impact innovation. We want something which is innovative, something which is new. And then here comes the startup, the tech SMEs, they come with these grand ideas, they present to us. We take about some time as well for MRANTI to knock our head to understand. And then we bring it to the panels, the higher panels, and they don't understand it, right? And either it's an area of innovation which is too new, that they don't have the expertise, and therefore we back away, yeah, which is the safe thing to do, right? Is don't approve it, give them something else, or we check the spelling, the proposal, the T's are not dotted, the I's are not, the T's are not crossed, the I's are not dotted, so this is not a good proposal. It happens, right? I'm not saying, because this is just human, you just being human. But I think this is when we talk about high impact innovation, I just want to dive in and maybe from Aziz from semiconductor, Haji Hazani looking at deep tech and the area periphery to deep tech, right? So maybe Norman, you take this one and say, from a startup perspective, when you talk about high impact innovation, what's your dictionary? What's your interpretation? What is high impact, right? Because the people out there is going to come and say, Cik Norman, this is high impact. You tak faham ke?
Everyone's going to say that. Everyone who comes would say that. They would say that their solution is the best in the world, right? And is it our job to straight away agree with you? And that's the thing, because we're holding the strings of the purse, right? So then, is it our job to be able to immediately understand what you are trying to pitch? You see? I think that's a little bit of a misconception here, because no one can actually be an expert in every single field. And Cradle being technology agnostic, we invite applications from all different types of technologies. It is a bit hard for us to be able to employ every single expert in every single field of research and technology. So what's the best way they can do? And it doesn't stop there, actually. So when you as a startup, once you've passed that early stage, you go to a VC investor. they come from the corporate finance world, from the investment world. They're not researchers, they're not technologists. So how can we blame them for not being able to understand the technology that you're trying to pitch? And then when you go out into the world, you're trying to sell it to consumers, you're trying to sell it to corporates, you try to sell it to the government. So can you blame them for not being able to understand all the technology lingo that you put up in your presentation? See, that is the thing that's I think we should address, because I think the best way to pitch is to sometimes to be able to actually speak in the same language of the person that you are pitching to. So not to say that you're dumbing down your pitch or anything like that, but make it relatable. It's like trying to sell something to someone on the street. You want to go selling a bottle of water. You don't want to go to a person and say, "Here, I have 2 molecules of hydrogen and 1 molecule of oxygen inside here." To a person on the street, they're not going to be able to understand. They won't even know what's good for them. But if you tell them this is, a water from, the highlands of Everest, the purest water in the world, there's no microbes in it, it's going to give you the best health in the world, then that is more relatable, that is more understandable. So I think, I want to come back to what Haji Hazani was saying previously, because I addressed this in one of my panels before. Because another misconception is that there's a lot of expectation when we talk about roadmaps and strategies and action plans from the government, right? But what Tuan Hazani has spoken just now actually really hits it right on the nail, in that it needs a whole ecosystem approach. Everybody in the ecosystem must play their part. It is not just the job of the government or the agencies trying to push programs through and hoping that we come up with champions at the end. Now, the people that come through the programs, the people that run the program, the universities that create the founders, the researchers, the corporates that take up all these innovations and products need to play their role. What I would like to call in this whole value chain of innovation. So I feel that there's a bit of a break. I'm being a bit controversial here. So I do feel that there's a bit of a break, between the value chain from the beginning of research all the way to the corporates. And how does it even go back, a cycle back to the research? Do the corporates tell the universities what that they're looking for? The next kind of technology that they need to be able to advance their business? Because I come from the oil and gas company. 50 years, Malaysian oil and gas industry. How many local Malaysian technologies come from oil and gas? I can tell you very little. We Malaysian companies, we invent valves, pipes, itu boleh lah. But the drilling rigs, the BOPs, the manifolds, everything lah, it doesn't come from Malaysia. It comes from outside. So we own the industry. So it's a bit of a shame that we can't really, get this through. So what I feel is that I think Malaysia as a country, we have pretty much everything. We have the industry, we have the talent, we have the research, we have the money even actually. Billions are pumped into our research R&D, either via this one or your programs, and then grants are given. And even in the VC side, government puts in money as well. So we're not really exactly short of money. Market-wise, okay, we're 30 million, but if you look next door, Indonesia, 100, 200 million, everything else is right outside our door. So it's not really that impossible, but something is just not working. So for me personally, I believe that we really need to activate this value chain. So once this thing happens, everyone is, really enriching every single node of the ecosystem, then we can expand further. More attraction will come into our ecosystem. More players, more investors will come into our ecosystem. And it will be richer and richer and richer and richer. And then we can expand further and further and further.
Okay, thank you, Norman. I just wanted to highlight early on today, during the opening speech of NICE, the Timbalan Perdana Menteri mentioned about the importance of technology sovereignty, right? Again, we can circle back to the question when it comes to high impact innovation, does it contain or must it contain that level of technology sovereignty? Because you mentioned oil and gas. Right now, people are moving into energy, yeah? So how much technology sovereignty do we have in the area of energy, oil and gas, in terms of Malaysian company? You can answer it later, yeah? But I think I just want to move on to Cik Aziz. We're looking in terms of all fantastic, we have the technology coming in, we have certain technology focus area, we have oil and gas, for example, that we can focus on. You're focusing on semiconductor. So I just want to pick up in terms of what Norman mentioned earlier about funding, yeah? How are you? Are you doing okay yourself, alone? Or do you wish that, because you're outnumbered on the stage right now, you have 3 agencies and 1 VC, right? We outnumber you, but, okay. Nak menang juga. Okay, but I want to go to Ilham because I want to see in terms of if there is a wish list, right? In terms of collaboration. Right now we're talking about business expenditure to R&D, ladies and gentlemen. We're talking about government expenditure on R&D, yeah? So we want to shift from government spending 70% and private sector 30% to a lot more in terms of private sector funding in terms of R&D, right? And also coming into the foray. Yeah, so which is why I wanted to ask Cik Aziz this question. Again, I'm not sure whether it's in the prepared question. I know you're prepared, but my job is to throw you that curveball. If you have that wish list, right, in terms of Ilham Capital working with the public sector funder, how would you design it? Is there like a collaboration in terms of funding? We sort of like have identified certain high impact innovation, but how will you go about designing that funding mechanism to show the better collaboration between private sector and public sector?
Thank you, Saudara Safuan. This is a curveball question indeed. I don't think I'm prepared, so I'll make it up as I go. Now, thinking out aloud, in trying to deliver a successful high-impact innovation, there are a couple of things that must be in place. So to me, it's a mix of fiscal incentives and policy. So innovation requires R&D. I mean, just to keep it very simple, if we don't spend on R&D, we cannot innovate because we'll just be another Me Too, just like what Saudara Norman alluded to oil and gas. We've been producing oil and gas for many, many decades. We have one of the largest oil and gas companies in the world, but how much did we innovate? Or how much did we just rely on foreign technology and suppliers and vendors, right? Why that is? Maybe that's because we are not incentivized to do R&D. We are incentivized only to deliver a contract for a margin. When it comes to R&D, that's an expense. So this is where the government must step in and set up a nurturing ecosystem for the companies to do R&D. Now, what does that mean? That could be in the form of R&D tax credit, perhaps. So that means if a company were to invest in R&D, they could get special tax concession, et cetera, et cetera. So that's where the fiscal incentives must come in to promote the right behavior by the companies. And in this behavior, to deliver high impact economy is R&D at the very core. That's one. Number two, in fact, just prior to this panel, I had a very interesting discussion with a fellow member who is looking for funding for an investment that he wants to undertake, for an idea or technology that he wants to undertake. And so he approached me just before this panel on how to raise that funding, right? Now, his idea is about improving efficiency in healthcare. Not to do with semiconductor, but in healthcare. Now, that question is relevant because it speaks to another thing that government can do to promote high impact valuation, innovation and so forth, which is to be the early customer for this innovation. The problem with our startups, when they create something, where is the market? Where is the market access? Who's going to buy that product or that services? If it's strictly going to be the market out there, be it the private companies, that could be a challenge. But if the government were to step in with certain thematic and saying that if you were to deliver this kind of innovation, let's say healthcare, let's say green tech, let's say this, I will buy because I have a need for it. Then the VCs of the world and the entrepreneurs can gear up to deliver the innovation because they know if they were to deliver that, the government can become early adopters. So it's a combination of the fiscal incentives and this policy incentive to drive that innovation. But it's got to be disciplined. It cannot be generalist. There has to be certain themes that we must focus on. On that, Brother Safuan, if I can ask, I do want to articulate what we should focus on as a country. And it's not me just looking at semiconductor, but right off the bat, I will advocate for government to look at semiconductor sovereignty. I want to pick on that word that the keynote speech was made of. We need to invest in sovereignty. First of all, being our trade is largely dependent on semiconductor, and there's a lot of tariff war going on semiconductor, it's right time for government to invest in semiconductor sovereignty. What does that mean? That means not just do the back end, the front end, IC design, advanced packaging, all that stuff. Value chain, yeah. Number two, we are not self-sufficient in food. We are heavily reliant on import. Although we have land, we have natural resources. So food tech, biotech, for food production, that's something we must do because that will create food sovereignty for Malaysia. That's number two. Number three, energy. So we talk about energy. Yeah, we are dependent on oil and gas for revenue, but what about our energy generation? We are very blessed with natural resources, sunlight, biomass. We need to invest to create this energy sovereignty. And there are many other thematic sovereignty. Data comes to mind. We all talk about AI, but we all use ChatGPT. And that data doesn't belong to us. If we don't do it right, we are going to be colonized data. That means we surrender our data to other owners of technology, and we are highly dependent on them to make value of our data. So it's right time we have to invest in AI application to create our AI solutions. There are good examples. Ilmu, for one thing, is being developed as a made in Malaysia LLM. We need more AI made in Malaysia. But it cannot just be on AI application. It boils down to AI infrastructure, the compute center. We need to have our super GPU with super cloud to then drive this innovation. But bottom line, we have to think about our sovereignty. Given what's happening in the world, we have to be self-sufficient along these lines to make sure that we are ready to compete and be present in the future. And I think Saudara Norman mentioned this about addressable market. Yeah, Malaysia might not be a big market, 30 juta, but our addressable market, by just looking at the backyard, is ASEAN, and that's 700 million people. As a bloc, we are one of the largest blocs in the world. We're only second to maybe China, well, now India, China, and others. We are even bigger than the United States in terms of population size, maybe not economy size, but it's going to get there.
Okay, thank you. I don't have a prize to give you, but ladies and gentlemen, Aziz has just mentioned 3 of the 4 things that iNation will cover. Give him a clap, please. Okay, so thank you for the introduction.
I want the present.
And this is not scripted. You can check his papers. He has the 30 pages there. Nothing is written on 30 pages. Is it 30 pages? More. Okay. So he's prepared, right? So for those of you, what I would like to, this is coming to, tomorrow is day 1 of iNation. There are 4 tracks. Basically, we're talking about AI artificial intelligence, not artificially intelligent, artificial intelligence. They are two different things, yeah? Another one is also we'll be discussing about health tech. We'll be also be discussing about agri-tech, yeah, related to food security, precisely, yeah? And also we'll be talking about the element which we want to add is about going global. And going global is about what you also technically you mentioned. You're talking about looking at the Indonesian market, the wider ASEAN market, and the bigger market. And again, I know this is an advertisement, but on day 2 of iNation, I'll be hosting a panel that talks to Switzerland, Sweden, and Singapore about going global. So these are all very relevant. Thank you so much. There's no prize for naming all the iNation pillars, but you certainly nailed it on the dot, nail on the head. So now I just want to share a bit because I feel missed out, right? I represent MRANTI, yeah. So it's an agency also under Mohd. Yeah, so I see the big blue logo there. And some of the things I've worked with Haji Hazani, as mentioned, for the Sandbox, MySTI. We work with Cradle for Super. Not yet directly work with Ilham, but I think this is the areas that we can definitely look at. One of the things that I've read in preparation for today's panel is how much, I think this is also covered by the opening speech this morning, about how much are we spending, yeah, for R&D as part of our GDP. Yeah, so we will mention that there was a growth of 0.9 to 1.0. Ladies and gentlemen, my learned friends, is that enough? Is that enough? Do you know how much Singapore is spending? You know how much Sweden is spending as part of percentage of their GDP? Or Switzerland for that matter, or South Korea. Nothing below 3%. Yeah? So the good thing is we have MSC, Malaysia Science Endowment, and I really want to see in terms of how we can unlock that. We talk about high impact innovation, and I think Norman mentioned also about the funding is there. We need to be able to unlock. And ladies and gentlemen, researchers, innovators out there in the seat, you need to be able to understand their language of love. Yeah? So this is something that we are toying with the idea regarding innovation bill. We need to be able to look at whether or not it's a National Science Act, whether it's the RDICE roadmap that was launched this morning. We need to be able to see there is a commitment, yeah, from the government, from the GLCs, yeah, from the private sectors, the VCs as well. How do we define, how do we develop this collaboration, the funding aspect of it, in terms of to deliver what we need to deliver, right? So I think this is an important area. Maybe we'll have that discussion during the Going Global panel because trying to, unlock the secret of Sweden, Singapore, as well as Switzerland. Basically, it's all S. Maybe the secret is in S, but I'm not sure, as it's in the word. Coming back to Haji Hazani, I just wanna, we are gonna run out of time very soon. I think I just want to bring in terms of the context of NICE being, it's not a local, it's not Malaysia focus. We have people in this room, it's not from Malaysia. But I think in terms of, I want to talk about ASEAN, right? I want to bring ASEAN into the picture. So we spoke about high impact innovation, we talk about collaboration between private and public. Now we're talking about ASEAN. So you gave that bridge, you built that bridge into now the discussion about ASEAN. So we are chairing ASEAN, yes, it is for 2025, but it is not yet over. We can still deliver impact, right? So from an agency perspective, MTDC, Cradle, and even from VC perspective, how can we actually make full use of our that we are the chairperson for ASEAN in terms of bringing that, developing that high impact innovation and bringing that high impact innovation out globally to the region. Actually, I'm open to any of the panelists to.
I think when we talk about innovation, we have to be balanced between the innovation model and business model, because we have to also balance between the risks and the rewards. So that's the thing. So when we talk to ASEAN, you know, looking at about 700 million plus of population, we're always talking about China having 1.3 billion. We say 1% of their good people, intelligent people. And in ASEAN, if we have 700 plus million people, you know, maybe 1% of the people is very, very intelligent. And of course, 715. So for me, I think if you want to really work along ASEAN, maybe we want to institutionalize some funding from different part of ASEAN, looking at the strength of everybody. And this is where we bring more private funding into the equation instead of just government to government. But right now, how people from the Indonesia, public VC Indonesia can work with us. I think we start working with that also. Under ECF also, we're talking like raise some international fund through ECF. So first, we have to garner all this corporate funding. Second is how we want to look at the capabilities of each of the country. Malaysia is good at what? Indonesia good at what? Philippines, you know. Right now it's about time ready sharing of this knowledge, working together, taking where they are good at. You know, we cannot work in silos anymore. That's second thing. And how then see how we can do a continuity of funding for each of innovation from, say that we find something in Indonesia that we said, okay, we want to invest. We bring in investor from Malaysia, we bring investor from everybody. Then we continue the funding because the funding is not just going to the market, but early stage of the R&D. Because we have to really more holistic, like I said before, you know, it's not just about bringing to the market, but how to bring from the lab to the market. That's very important. So that's two stage. And of course, at the end of the day, you know, how we want to really work on the governance side, you know. Because how if I invest in Indonesia, you know, what is the act over there, you know, the policy over there. This is something you have menyeragamkan this policy. Because right now, people are so afraid to go in certain part of ASEAN, you know, because we don't know. They are market protection lah, macam-macam apa certification lah, market barriers. So it's about time right now, ASEAN, if you want to really penetrate the world, we have to penetrate ASEAN. And within ASEAN, we have to work together. The policy, you know, like we bring drugs, halal for drugs, certification, halal certification, how we commonize this halal or certification. Because, you know, everybody in ASEAN have different sort of about different genome. Because just to share our experience, we have one vaccine company, you know, that developed vaccine from ASEAN people, you know. Now, and we want to sell to other part of the world. People said, no, I don't care, you know. That one is not vaccine to Mak Saleh, you know. So then if we have that kind of strategy, then easy, you know, because we work. So that's how we find a common problem in ASEAN, like say penyakit in ASEAN, food in ASEAN, you know. From that, we create the platform to work on with the funding, with G2G, and the same common policy. I think that's, the first step for us to really work together. And from here, we can really go to the market. We don't say right now, oh, Europe. Right now, it's ASEAN product, you know. When people say it's ASEAN product, then people say, oh, they're very good. They have the complete manufacturing chain, value chain. They have good R&D, and they have their own market already. So, and sometimes people looking at us as to learn, not just right now being we learn from somebody, maybe people want to learn from us. That's the things that I think the four things that we need to address if we want to lead Malaysia in ASEAN and ASEAN to the world.
Thank you, Haji. Norman, on the same note, but from a startup perspective instead, right? Because you're working on Super, yeah, the startup roadmap, you're also the startup single window. We are together on the KL20 initiative, right? We have several initiatives when it comes to MRANTI runs the KL Innovation Belt as well as the GPU credits, yeah. But now in terms of ASEAN perspective, startups, in terms of what do you think in terms of how do you want to attract or even push our high impact innovation out to the region and or pull them into Malaysia so that we can collaborate on developing something better?
Can't put this, the question being where I'm going to put my answer to, like, because this is what we've been working on for the past couple of years, ever since 2023. Because one of the key objectives of Super, the Startup Ecosystem Roadmap, on the road to become one of the top 20 global startup ecosystems by 2030, one of the key interventions in there is to actually place Malaysia, position the country as a global startup hub. So it's a very tall order actually. But the logical step for us is actually right outside of our doorstep, ASEAN, the region, right? So in 2023, we came up with this concept of ASEAN Startup Initiative. In 2024, it was agreed by all 10 members of the ASEAN state. So it is now a fully ASEAN-endorsed startup program. This year is the first execution year. So we have launched the single window for ASEAN. It's called Startup ASEAN. So it is meant to do, thank you. Thank you. So it is meant to do exactly what Haji Hazani was mentioning just now. To bring people together, to bring the intelligence that we have within the region, to come together, to collaborate, to share resources, to open up opportunities. Imagine a startup from Malaysia being able to source funding from Singapore and then to sell to consumers in Indonesia or sell to businesses in Bangkok, right? So this is the kind of idea that we have for this initiative. Yes, there are kinks to it, like the regulations and all these things, but these are just a means to an end. So the end is actually very clear. It's for us to come together as a region, come up with a regional proposition, and go out into the world. And that's the idea of it. So if I can put in a little bit of an advertisement, if you don't mind. Is it okay? Yeah. So please, this year, our very first time, we are going to host a Startup ASEAN Summit. It's our very first time to do it. Okay, and I really invite every one of you to come for this summit. It will be on the 3rd to the 5th of November. It will be action-packed, 3 days, multiple location, anything and everything, Startup Malaysia and Startup ASEAN. Please be there, come to our booth, Cradle's booth, over here at level 4. You can get discounts. Okay, thank you. But the main thing is that, think about, don't just limit yourself, because the opportunity is there. We are building this bridge for you. Please come with us. Let's go together as a country, as a region, to become global champions.
Okay, thank you. Free advertisement there, but again, if he did not say it, I will promote Cradle, because that's our responsibility as sibling, right? So remember the date again, 3 to 5 of November. Yeah, do not miss it. If you're a startup, you need to be there, right? Unless you're, I mean, in terms of this, Roman say, it's action-packed, it's going to be everywhere. I hope to be joining as well. So I just want to go back to Aziz. Aziz, you mentioned just now, if I were a startup for food tech, or biotech, or energy, and if I insert the word technology sovereignty into my pitch deck, what's my chances of getting funding from Ilham Capital? I don't have any startup registered yet.
So I'm being boxed in a corner. There's a long answer and a short answer. The short answer is no chance. Again, there's a reason why I have to give the long answer. Saudara Norman said this: the challenge for Cradle is a generalist and tries to see through many investment coming from different background of sciences, right? Ilham doesn't have that luxury. We are a specialist. We only focus on semiconductor because we need to know semiconductor as good as the entrepreneur, if not better, because that's how we intend to drive value creation. So maybe sedikit advertisement juga, sebab semua orang dah ambil peluang, saya pun nak advertise Ilham jugalah. So the basis of Ilham is actually we are a local Malaysian general partner, GP, that manages a cross-border semiconductor fund. It's actually called Korea-Malaysia Open Innovation Fund. I have a co-GP partner, which is a Korean VC, Intervest. In fact, I just flew in from Korea this morning. We are both looking to invest in a major AI company, and we are crowding in investment coming from Malaysia and Korea. But that's the crux of Ilham. We are just focusing on semiconductor, so we have to be a specialist. And that's the reason why we had to go GP with Intervest, because Intervest has already strong track record in high tech, in semiconductor. They even built up their team to include semiconductor engineers from the likes of Samsung. On top of that, we have an advisory panel that we can reach out to for very complicated science and semiconductor from the universities. So we cannot afford to be journalists. We must be semiconductor specialists, and hence we cannot invest in any other thing other than semiconductor. There is some discretion to look at beyond, but at the heart of it, it is semiconductor. But the question is still fair, right? So how do we help entrepreneurs who come to us and look at investment? In fact, the same question was just posed to me just before the panel. So the one thing about Ilham, maybe there's also a plug advertisement here. You mentioned this. I was in charge of corporate finance, Quantify. So this is what Quantify does. Quantify actually works with the likes of you, entrepreneurs, who are looking to find funding, be it from the venture side, be it from the PE side, be it from the capital market, be it from the banks. So this is what advisors like Quantify would do. They will help the companies, the entrepreneurs, to fundraise. And the likes of advisors like Quantify then will put together the information material to be able to then engage investors like me, Ilham, to be able to then scrutinize the investment and put through our approval process, investment committee, et cetera, et cetera. So I think that's the that's the answer, Safuan, that there are parties who can work with the entrepreneurs to guide them through the process, and then to then engage with the likes of Ilham, Cradle, MTDC, or the more sophisticated, the bigger ones like Co-op, Khazanah, and so forth.
Okay, I think that's an excellent statement, answer for me to start sesi penggolongan. Yeah, I know that my panelists are breathing a sigh of relief. You know, the torture is about to end. But I think in terms of, because you mentioned in terms of, you know, rightfully Cradle, MTDC, as well as myself from MRANTI. Now, for the participant and also the attendees for today and what we have discussed, the journey of ideas to impact. When we talk about impact being impact to you would be you are able to commercialize. Impact to you would you, for example, you'll be able to generate revenue. Impact to the nation is that we are able to benefit from your innovation, right? So that journey, it's scary, yeah? So for those of you who have not embarked or about to embark, you know, it is a scary journey, but I just want to highlight that it is a journey that you do not have to undertake alone, yeah? I think this is where that I can speak on behalf of my agency and my team that we need to work harder, yeah, for your benefit. And I think the same goes to all the ecosystem partners here, whether be it public or private. We need to be able to identify ourselves and make our offerings more visible, because there will be gaps, you know, along the way from ideas to impact, ideas to market, and you need to be able to know where we are, what kind of program, what kind of initiative, whether or not is there any policy or whether any fiscal incentive are in place or to be put in place. And this is, I think, where we have that responsibility to deliver to you. But at the same time as well, as what my panelists, my esteemed panelists has mentioned, is that you cannot just go and walk up to them and say, I'm a Malaysian company, give me my funding, right? It doesn't work like that. And this is where I would like to use the word that was sort of like the word here is, what is their language of love? For example, Norman gave a good example about going to basically you're selling H2O, right? Well, I'm quite sure everybody in this room knows what's H2O, right? But I don't go around and say, I'm so thirsty, I need H2O. That's not in my lingo, right? Like, you know, today I'm going to go back and I'm going to take a shower with H2O as well, right? And then I'm going to pass H2O as well. So I mean, like, we don't speak like that. So the important thing is understand the language of love. You know, for some, it could be in terms of economic returns. And that is mostly true for ministries, right? We want to be able to see that you are able to understand where we're coming from. We're not purposely making it harder. But I think in terms of if you think that it's hard now, wait until you start going regional, start going into ASEAN, when you start going global, right? Don't take my word for it. These are experience from all the other startups. So understanding the language of love is very important. So we talk about, you know, fiscal incentive, policy. Hopefully we are looking at National Science Act, something to do with innovation bill, where we can compel a certain amount that is going to be put aside for R&D, high impact innovation, yeah. And also I think we spoke about areas that we need to have technology sovereignty. And this also will help guide you when you have a conversation with your funders in terms of, hey, I have a high impact innovative idea. You know, make sure that it's grounded based on whether of the country, whether is it food security, whether it is health security, yeah, or whether it's cyber security, whatever security it is, right? The point here is that make sure you're grounded, you use your language of love, you understand in terms of the national imperative, and you look in terms of what are the partners out there. Yes, there may be a lack of information that shows how this program are gelled together, but I can safely say that this is what MRANTI is trying to address at our end from an ecosystem perspective. But I think in terms of at your end, you have also some things that you have to do. Yeah, we are at a transition period of RMK 12, which is Rancangan Malaysia Ke-12 to RMK 13. Similarly as well, I'm also excited to see what's happening in RMK 13. We have many of the things which our panelists have mentioned, which I cannot say that we will get for sure, but definitely we want to see the transitioning or the transcending of the National Technology Innovation Sandbox to a global test bed and sandbox alliance working with regional partners. That's what we want to do, yeah? And also as well, many of you may not know that technology, MRANTI is also, you know, we are in a technology science park, which is almost 700 acres, yeah, big in Technology Park Malaysia. We want to be able to have linkages with, we already have linkages with Z Park of China, yeah, TAS Park. We want to be able to work with other parks as well. Is it for us? Yes, some of it is for us, but it's also for you. It is that so that we have this nexus, that those innovation that stems from Malaysia or in our park, we can actually have a nexus to the other parks in the other regions, in the other countries. It is also for your benefit. So I think we've spoken a lot, and I really hope that you have benefited a lot as well, yeah, from today's session. If we will not be able to take any questions, but again, they are public figures, they are around, they'll be here for the next couple of days, hopefully, yeah. And I will end by repeating again, we have November, we have ASEAN Startup ASEAN Summit, Startup Summit, and that's happening 3rd to 5th of November, yeah. And also an iNation happening tomorrow, 7 and 8, with the BioExceed happening on the 9th. With that, I wanted to say, let's give a round of applause to our panelists for being able to take all the questions. And also a bigger round of applause for each and every one of you for your support today. Thank you very much. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Thank you again to Mr. Safuan and all our panelists for their insightful and forward-looking discussion. Today's forum have reminded us that strategic funding and strong collaboration are the backbone of Malaysia's innovation future, where ideas are not just conceived but realized for the benefit of society and the nation. And of course, for our moderator and panelists, we do have a token of appreciation to be given. And to commemorate this session, I would like to invite Puan Nurbaya Othman, the Undersecretary Fund Division, Ministry of Science, Technology and Innovation from MOSTI, to come on stage and present the token of appreciation to our moderator and panelists. All right, let's take a very quick photo session with our photographers. Can we have a thumbs up? All right, again, ladies and gentlemen, thank you to Puan Nurbaya. And again, thank you once again to our moderator and panelists. And again, before we close the day, we would love to hear your feedback on the FundConnect sessions and your overall experience that we have today.